There's not one part of me that thinks I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. I just don't believe it. I believe that the next person that I meet is going to be my husband, and I'm going to talk more about that next year, but I genuinely believe that I am the type of person that looks for love. Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Up for Air with myself, Lou. I hope we're all okay. I thought I would start this episode off by just informing you of the posting schedule over Christmas. So obviously I like to give myself some time off. I'd like to give myself some time off actually. And so next week is going to be a normal episode on Friday. The week after Friday is Boxing Day. And so I'm going to actually publish an episode on the 23rd. And I'm going to make it a Christmas Eve episode. So I think I'm going to publish it on the 23rd or the 24th. Can't decide, but there will be no episode published on the Friday the 26th. I'm going to have the whole of that week off. I'm not going to post on anything. And I'm just really going to enjoy Christmas because this year's been so full on and I have done so much. I want to make sure that I'm actually giving myself some time off. So there will be an episode that week, but it's going to be a Christmassy episode. It's going to be a Christmas Eve episode. It's probably just going to be me wrapping up the year. And then the episode after that is the 2nd of January. So that will be when we are looking over our goals and journaling and restarting the year and basically getting into what we want to achieve next year and how we're going to manifest things and just starting a blank page basically. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first. If you are a part of my Patreon, it is going to be the same. So there will be 2 extra episodes next week plus the single series. There'll be 2 extra episodes the following week plus the single series, but there will be no posts from Christmas Eve up until the 2nd of January. I feel like I need to put my out of office on for work. This is my out of office. This is my verbal out of office. I really thought about it and I was worried about it and I was like, oh no, I'm going to miss weeks and blah, 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 blah. I'm not. I just don't want to be posting over the festive period. I don't want to have to be coming home and thinking about it on Boxing Day, and I just want to get it all out of the way basically so I can enjoy the time with my family because everybody deserves time off, and when you work for yourself it is very difficult to give yourself time off. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So welcome back to another episode. I had a whole weekend of festive fun. I was super festive this. On Friday I hosted my girls' night. There was lots of alcohol. I think we got through near on 12 bottles of Prosecco. I think it was 12. Can't remember. There was lots. And lots of wine. And I don't really kind of remember how it got so loose, but we got loose. Not as loose as the year before. That was bad. And I was literally talking to my sister over the weekend because I'm going to a pantomime with my family this year. My parents pay for us to go and see a pantomime every single year. We're seeing Jack and the Beanstalk this year. The kids absolutely love it. So we're taking the kids this year. Last year we took my cousin who was over from Australia. I don't know whether you remember me talking about that, but my cousin was over from Australia, so we took him to go and see a British pantomime. So we're going to see Jack and the Beanstalk this year. I don't remember a lot of the pantomime last year. I didn't stop partying until 6 a.m. the night before, and that is because I choose to do both. I choose to be a wholesome auntie and I choose to be a 365 party girl. So that was interesting. I was telling my sister and I was like, I don't really remember any of it, but I just literally piled myself in the back of my sister's car and off we went. So yeah, that was Christmas last year with the fam. This year I was able to wake up. I had a raging Prosecco hangover. I think I'm done for Prosecco for the season of Christmas. I think I just need to stick to wine. Me and Prosecco, I just have the worst headaches. and it annoys me, and I do it every single time, and I'm like, yeah, Prosecco, and then I'm like, oh, Prosecco hangovers, they're not great. They're actually pretty horrendous. So I'm unsure whether I'm going to be nailing Prosecco like I have been these past couple of weekends. So I think I might go on to the wine now. This weekend, I don't know why this happens to me, or whether my family just choose to do it to me. I'm unsure, but I'm going to the Christmas markets this weekend, and I go with one of my oldest friends every year. Since we were single, I was single and then she became single. She went through the same sort of situation as me. She's actually a success story that I could probably tell. She went through the same sort of thing as me, met somebody, moved him in, and they're getting married next year. So, so we've carried on the tradition of going to the Christmas markets, and it's our festive celebration, and we absolutely love it every single year. And she was like, oh, should we go at this time? Should we do this? Should we get the last train home? And I'm like, yeah. And my sister's like, don't forget, we're going to the pantomime on Sunday. And I'm like, of course we are going to the pantomime on Sunday. Why would we not be going to the pantomime on Sunday? And now I'm like, do I go straight through? Because I think that is the only way that I got through the pantomime last year. It was like I literally put my head down for an hour's sleep, woke back up and was just bundled into the back of my sister's car. Or do I go home when I'm supposed to go home after the last train home, get myself into bed and feel refreshed for the next day? I'm a girl that can do both, but I'm unsure what I'm going to do this weekend. So it always happens. There's just so much going on, isn't there, at this time of year? It's like jam-packed with stuff and things and plans. And my friend said to me, when are you free? And I was like, how about like 4 weeks on Tuesday, January? She was laughing at me. She was like, you're always so busy this time of year. I was literally down in London at the weekend. And now I'm back here and it's all just go. And we try and fit in, eating healthily and exercising and going for a run. And everything kind of becomes a little bit crazy. And you think, am I living in an alternative universe? That's how I currently feel at the moment. So Monday is Monday and I am trying to be as productive as I possibly can. I woke up this morning, recorded some TikToks this morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning, went and did my food shop. I should probably get up and do my food shop first, because I actually hate the food shop, so it'd probably be less busy if I got up and did it at 6 o'clock. But I got up, put a full face of makeup on, started recording TikToks, and I've managed to bash out a lot of content, to be fair, today. Like, I am actually quite proud of myself. I do tend to get quite distracted, obviously scrolling through TikTok, looking at trends, looking at seeing what people are doing. It can get quite distracting. So I'm actually quite proud of myself today. So I thought, whilst I was eating my lunch earlier, I thought I'm going to do an episode on, and sometimes I've got a list of things that I want to discuss and talk about. I've sometimes got requests. Sometimes I can be stood in the shower, or I can be sat eating my lunch, or I can be doing something, driving somewhere, and I think, that would be a really good podcast episode. And recently I have been talking to a lot of people that have said that they've been listening to my winter single series, or they've been listening to my winter captions on Instagram. And a lot of people have said to me, and a lot of people have questioned, like, how did you look forward? Like, you're 4 years single, pretty much, because, we split up at the start of 2022. Like, how have you looked forward? How have you, been single for 4 years, for one? And, what has been sort of, the glue that has held yourself together? And how have you proceeded? And how have you thought, did you think you were going to be single for 4 years? Was this part of the plan? Was this part of the bigger picture? And I thought I would do an episode on surviving 4 years. And I say surviving because the last 4 years have been chaos. But, there has been some thought behind why I've done what I've done. But also there hasn't been, because there's been a lot of like learning and trusting myself, trusting the universe, trusting the process. So I thought I would do an episode on like how the 4 years have looked to me, how I've kind of shifted my mindset, why I've made certain decisions, and it might make you feel a little bit better about being single this year, and how like you can look in 4 years. And I mean, I'm talking about 4 years, but it wasn't a bit up until last year, the start of last year, that I made a 5-year plan. I made a 5-year plan around my life. I've made a 5-year plan around my location. I made a 5-year plan around my content and my social media. I made a 5-year plan around my career. And so there has been some strategic planning to what I'm doing, and I always hold my hands up and I always say that like I'm a control freak and I like to control everything in my life, bar people. I find not controlling people really easy. Like if they want to come into my life, they can. If they want to leave, they can. Like it's kind of like I'm a little bit fluid with that, but everything that I do, I like to have control, even like down to the minor detail of my day. I like to know that I'm going to have got my 7,000 steps in and at least a HIIT class by like 8:30. I like to control that, and there are ways that I control that by like not looking at my phone, putting my phone on airplane mode, and so much more of the stuff that like I actually go into, and I'm quite regimented in my routines and stuff. But there has been a method behind what some people may call madness by being single for this long, but it has served me, and it has served me in an incredibly positive way. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the episode. So these 4 years of mine have been 4 separate, different, chaotic, calming, manic life stories. And I have met so many different versions of myself. I've learned how to trust myself. I've learned how to respect myself. I've learned how to respect other people. There have been so many things that have gone on in these last 4 years. And I want to take you through the last 4 years to kind of explain how I've grown as a person and how I have grown into being a single woman in my 30s. And there has been a lot of focus on like my single status, which means there's been a lot of focus on why I am still single. And not one of these years have I been waiting for love, and not one of these years have I said I'm always going to be single. Those words have never left my mouth. And I will joke about it, obviously, and I'll say, oh God, I'm going to be a single Catwoman for the rest of my life. But I haven't meant a word of that. There's not one part of me that thinks I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. I just don't believe it. I believe that the next person that I meet is going to be my husband. And I'm going to talk more about that next year. But I genuinely believe that like I am the type of person that looks for love, and I think that's how I've been able to cope with like not being on dating websites and not going out and saying to my friends, have you got any single friends, can I be set up with somebody, blah 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 blah. I think that's why I have stopped, and not really stopped because I never was, but I think I stopped the obsession of like these 4 years of me been waiting for love. They absolutely definitely haven't, because I'm going to refuse to settle for average, because I believe that yes, my relationship served me for the years that it served me, but I do think that I asked for the bare minimum a lot, and I'd never say that my relationship was average, like far from it. It was really fulfilling, really great at the time, but I do think that some of the things I asked for were the absolute bare minimum, and I have never been given anything above that by anybody that I've met. And I refuse to walk into my next relationship carrying chaos from my past. And I'm going to get into that further throughout this episode, but I genuinely believe, hand on my heart, that if I met somebody now, the only thing that would be related to my past is this podcast. And I've said to so many people, the next person that I meet will understand why I do what I do, and how like this was once upon a time a healing chat for me. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is, you know, I get upset when I reminisce about stuff, but that's because I've got a big heart and I'm human, and I'm like, will never apologize and feel silly for getting upset about certain things that I've gone through. And I think people think that when you heal and have got over things, you never get upset revisiting them. But I just don't believe that. I just believe that, like, if you've gone through something like horrendous and like really, really traumatic, then I don't think you will ever be able to like revisit a certain moment or revisit a certain time and not get upset. I think it's quite strange if you do, you know, find yourself being like, yeah, that's whatever. Like, I was talking about the first Christmas that I spent by myself, and I had kind of forgotten about it until I saw a certain video, and that triggered me. I'm not one of those people that will sit here and be like, oh, I'm totally fine, that doesn't even upset me anymore. Am I crying over my ex? No. Am I crying over a version of myself that I never thought I would be? Yes. Am I crying over the fact that I actually don't physically, mentally know how I got through that year? Yeah. Because I sit here now and I look back at the version of myself and I'm in awe of her. I am her, but like, I'm in awe of that version of myself, because I just think, like, how on earth did she get out of bed? Like, how on earth did I go to the events? How on earth did I put a smile on my face? And it's mental when you think about it, because you think, oh my God, like, I actually went through that. That wasn't a horror story. That wasn't a nightmare. It wasn't something that I just pretended to go through. I really went through it. And I'm sure you're sitting here listening thinking, oh my God, so am I. Like, I'm really going through it, or I really went through it. And I think it's so important to really go through it, because like I said, then you're going into your next relationship having healed in the correct way. And like I said, I will come on to that. So I'm going to go through the years, and I've made notes, and like I sit and I type out my notes. I've made notes on all the years that I've been single. So year one, sorry, I've just taken a massive drink of my drink and it's like taking my breath away. It's like I've never drank water in my life. Year one, I've just written survival. Let's be honest. Year one was the most disorientating, sad, loneliest Christmas I think I will ever go through as a human being. I felt like the world around me was moving. Everyone was moving forward. People were celebrating. People were spending time with their loved ones. People were spending time with their family and posting loads of photos, and the Christmas tree photos and the family photos. And I felt like absolutely everybody was having the best time apart from me. However, on the outside, you'd have thought I was having the best time. There's a video of me on New Year's Eve, and my best friend Isabel calls me, and I turn round. Not only is my face the puffiest I have ever seen it, because I must have been going through a horrendous time with like my gluten intolerance, because it was like 6 months after that I got told that I had a gluten intolerance. Just the puffiness in general, because I was still in fight or flight mode. I look at her and I go from looking at my phone and seeing a message from somebody saying like, hey, like, you've been through so much this year, like, I can't believe that your ex has got a new girlfriend, you know, I've seen them on Instagram. And I didn't know that. I didn't know they were posting each other on Instagram because I haven't got them. And you can see it in my face, and my best friend calls me, and my face goes from being so sad to being so happy in an instant. And only I know, well, you guys know now because I've just told you, but only I know what I'm looking at in that video, and I can see it, and I can see my face. And I think I turned round in a way that I thought Izzy had clocked it. So I thought, oh my God, no, she knows what I'm looking at as well. But she didn't. She just literally called me, and I like turned round, and you can just see it. It's all over my face. You would have never have known how much I struggled. I don't think my parents really knew how much I struggled. I didn't crack once in front of my family. I didn't cry once. I cried so much by myself behind closed doors, but I didn't cry in front of my family. There was no like sadness and this is the first Christmas by myself, and there was none of that. And I think I was still grieving so much as a single woman who didn't want any of the life that she had been given at that point. And it was really tough. And I just threw myself into hosting. Like I said last week, I threw myself into opening my house up to everybody. And I basically just masked how I was feeling. But year one taught me something really important. And that was that healing was not going to happen immediately. Like, I was just trying to hold myself together and trying not to lose myself, like, every 5 minutes. And I was trying not to fall apart, and I was trying to stay strong throughout everything that I was going through. And I feel like my breakup happened in stages. It was like I was left, I didn't get answers, I pushed for answers, there was the gut feeling about another person. I then found out other things that happened during my relationship. Then I was faced with the summer. Then I was faced with like my ex not being really in the country in the summer. Then I got so many more like screenshots, messages, just so much shit thrown at me. Then it was like I had to sell the house. So then it was like getting the house ready to set to sell. Then it was Christmas. Then my house went up for sale. Then it was the new year. And it was like I was going into a year that, like the first year, completely single. Like I had started the year as a fiance and I ended the year single. And then I was going into 2023 as a single woman, not really knowing what I was doing, where I was going to live, what I was going to do for a job. It was like I just felt like that whole year was just a blur. And then all of a sudden it was almost like a year since I'd been left. And everyone was looking at me as if to say like, why have you not got a new boyfriend? And I couldn't believe I was being asked it, because I was thinking, my year has literally been chaos. I've been trying to keep my head above water this year, and you're asking me why I haven't moved on like my ex. It was just crazy. That whole year was just a blur. And sometimes me and my sisters will like reminisce back, especially my middle sister who was here. My other sister obviously lived in America, but sometimes we reminisce back. And it's so interesting, the other day my sister said to me that she was talking to somebody who's going through a divorce at the moment, and Gracie said that this woman at work was talking to her, and she went back to her desk and she was like, it just brought me back to everything that you went through. And she was like, and I was remembering conversations, and I was remembering you telling me stuff, and like she was even reciting stuff back to me. She was like, do you remember when? And I was like, no. She said, yeah, look at this, like remember when you sent me this, and remember when you sent me that. And like she's got screenshots and stuff, because when I went through that stage where my memory was like really struggling, I said to my sister, like, please screenshot anything you think that, you know, I might need in the future to remember certain things if I ever doubt myself. And she's done that, and she's got like pictures and screenshots and stuff. And I was like, my God, you don't realise how much it actually affects everybody around you as well, not just you. That first year was about survival, like literally survival. Like it was about eating, it was about training for the races that I was doing as well, but like eating, sleeping, learning, and getting used to being in therapy. I don't think I got comfortable in a therapy seat for about 6 months. I just smiled because I've just given myself goosebumps thinking about like the first couple of times I sat in the therapy room, and I was thinking, I felt like such a fraud being there because I'd gone through a breakup. I also felt like if I hadn't gone, I don't know how I would have processed a lot of the stuff that I went through, because a lot of the stuff that I work through is stuff to do with me and how my brain has reacted and how like I process things. And yes, that's because I was put through something, but it's the aftermath that you have to deal with in therapy, and that's what you have to go through, why you've reacted in a certain way, how to prevent the reaction from happening again. And I think that's why therapy is so tough, because you have to relive situations that you would much rather just put to the back of your mind. And like I said at the start of this podcast episode, that put to the back of my mind wasn't an option for me. I couldn't just fill the space that had been left with somebody new to distract me. I wanted to work out why my body felt the way it felt every single time I picked the phone up to my ex. I wanted to know why, like, I couldn't just be like, oh, it's my ex-boyfriend. This is somebody that I've known for 14 years. Why could my body not process that? Why couldn't it just be calm? Because it was like somebody that I'd known, and yes, they had hurt me, but why is my body doing that? Why am I having panic attacks? Why am I waking up in the middle of the night having like such vivid, horrible, like sleep paralysis dreams? There was so many questions that I had that were unanswered. Like, why did I feel guilty? And I think the mental battle that I had with myself and the intrusive thoughts, which is like something that I don't talk about on my podcast because I just genuinely can't. I think trained professionals help you with intrusive thoughts, and it's just something that I'm not willing to revisit on like a public platform. I think people think I share a lot of things, but I don't. But it was like, I was so scared being in my own head. I just wanted to like cut my brain out and stop the thoughts. And I had to process all of that. And I think that's why I then struggled when my ex got a new partner, because it was like, you've not had to do any of this. And it's not that he's not had to, it's just that he didn't want to. So the fact that I'd made a plan in my head, that I'd gone so quickly through the emotions of like, I never want to get engaged, I never want to get married, I'm never going to trust anybody ever again, to, of course I want to get engaged, I 100% want to get married, but this isn't going to impact my new relationship. I was so headstrong on the fact that there was no way that my ex wasn't going to turn my life upside down and get away with it in a way that's like, sounds like a threat, but like in a way that's like, he's never going to come into my mind when I'm in a new relationship ever again. And I know that that person that I meet is going to feel like I'm not using them to get over somebody else. And I am so proud of that girl who got me through year one. The girl who pretty much cried herself to sleep every single night, who heard people's opinions on how I should have been dealing with it, heard people's opinions on how I should be spending my single years, all the unsolicited advice that I got on that year. How I dealt with that, I will never know, but I'm so proud of the girl that dealt with it. I'm so proud of the girl that saw things, got told things, was sent things. And eventually I stopped reacting, and I am so proud of that girl, because I used to think that everything needed a reaction, and I used to think that I had to pick up the phone to my ex and be like, hey, by the way, I've been sent this, or what the hell is this, or you said this, or how did you say that? I just stopped reacting because I was learning as the year went through, and there will never be a point in my entire life that I don't go back to 2022 and think about the resilience and the strength and just the sheer determination to make it through the end of the year. I was looking forward to going into a year that didn't involve my ex, but of course I worked for him, so of course it was going to involve my ex, but like from an emotional and relationships point of view, like it didn't involve my ex at all, because in year 2 I sold my house, and that didn't sell till March. I think we accepted the offer in March, I think, or can't remember. I didn't move into my house until the end of May bank holiday. I moved into my house. And even though from the outside I looked so stable, I was still so fragile. And people say to me, again, the questions like, oh, you've got a new house now, like, oh my god, you're moving on, like blah blah blah, like when's a new person coming into your life? I'm sorry, what? You've got a new house, you've just bought a new house, you've got your own space. When are you meeting somebody? Have you met somebody? But just because I've got my own space, I didn't know what paying a bill felt like. I genuinely had never paid for a house on my own in my entire life. I didn't know whether my wages were going to make sure that I could live, eat. I had no idea how I was going to pay for this house. I obviously knew that I could afford it, but like I genuinely didn't know what life looked like for me being a homeowner on my own. My mortgage is near on £1,000 a month. And and when I think about it, I think, oh my God, that's terrifying. And at the time, obviously, I just wanted my own space. And this house gave me my own space to breathe and to not feel like I was constantly being reminded of the past. However, I was then thrown into the deep end of like, you are really by yourself in this. And I didn't want to meet somebody because I was still finding my feet in the summer of 2023 of like how to pay for things and how expensive things were. And I was still healing. I was still figuring out who I was. I'd gone from being a wife, a housewife, and someone who didn't really worry about money to counting every single penny that came into my house. And I knew as well in 2023 that I worked for my ex. And yes, like I met people in 2023 and I was able to say I'm business coordinator for a plumbing firm. I didn't have to say, oh my God, I work for my ex, because I was only dating. Because if I met somebody, I wasn't looking for my husband. So I thought like they don't really need to know the ins and outs of like my job like this early on. And so like I didn't really share a lot of that sort of information, but it was looming over my head like I'm not going to be able to do this forever. I wasn't getting direct emails, but I was getting the vibe that my ex's new girlfriend did not like the fact that I worked for him, which is totally fine. But I think when you come into somebody's relationship and you know their dynamic and you know that their current girlfriend, i.e. me, worked for him and she decided to get involved, it's kind of like, well, you knew, so you can't really have the arse about it. But it was like, but I've known my ex for half my life. I knew his tone, and half the stuff that I was getting sent, I was like, that's not him. That's 100% not him. He was getting help for like writing emails and stuff. And so like all of these things were happening, and I was in this new house, and then it was all of a sudden I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to get a new job because this can't last forever. Like this is not going to last forever. I didn't want to have to tell somebody new I work for my ex. So again, 2023, I was my biggest priority again. Not finding someone, not dating, not going out and doing things like that. I was my biggest priority. I was putting myself first. Did I make it a priority to find a new job? No. I started living a bit more in 2023. I went away, I spent some time by myself, and I was trying to put myself first after like getting out of the house and obviously then moving into my own house. And it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't me going into my single girl era. It was me holding on for dear life, thinking this is me now. I'm on my own now. And if I can't pay a bill, then I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I need to carry on working quite hard. And if I was to get a new job, I'm going to have to get the same salary as I'm on now. And I don't know if that's possible. I don't know how that looks. 2023 was still a year of uncertainty for me. And I think it was where I built a lot of new habits, because obviously I lived on my own in my house, obviously in the house that I had with my ex, but I didn't pay for the house. So yes, I knew how it was like to live on my own, and I built my own habits and my own sort of traditions, rituals and nightly routines and all the rest of it. But I didn't know how that then looked with my life, because I didn't know how my bank balance was going to look. So could I afford to do certain things? Who knows? And that year taught me that even though I changed my surroundings, even though I was in somewhere new, it didn't mean that my emotional stress, my emotional like torment and the emotions were going to go away. It just meant that I had more breathing space because I was in a new environment. I was in a house that I could come home to and nothing would remind me of my ex, bar my furniture, which has now slowly been phased out. The only thing that I own that has come from my old house is my sofa. And I think everybody who sat on my sofa would argue that I would be a fool to get rid of it. My best friend has just bought the same sofa I think so. It's like Sofology have like upgraded it a little bit, and she's ended up with the same sofa. And I think no fair, because you get on my sofa and you do not get back off. It's the comfiest bloody sofa in the world, honestly. It's the best thing ever. I remember sitting on it in the shop and me and my ex were like, this is the sofa for the snug. And I'm so glad that we bought it, because I've ended up with it and it's the best sofa in the whole friggin' world. 2023 was a year where I didn't look for romance because I still felt lonely. And I wanted to learn how to be alone and not feel lonely. And I was like involved with little situationships that like dating people, seeing people and stuff. And some of my reactions to certain situations made it very, very, very known to me that I was not ready to plunge myself in at the deep end. I was like, I wanted to make sure that I was okay with having a phone that didn't go off with a morning text and an afternoon text and an evening text and, you know, meeting up at the weekend. I was learning about my attachment style a lot in 2023 in therapy, and I've learned a hell of a lot about being anxiously attached, which is the type of person that I am, and I have learned how to deal with that. And I was still hearing from my ex, arguing, there was still conversations going on. It was horrible. 2023 was not a year where I thought, I'm in my single girl era now, this is great, finding my feet, fantastic. I was carrying myself and renovating my house and getting emotional because I was thinking, God, I can't just say I want to take that wall down and it being done, which is what I used to do with my ex. I want a shelf put there and it was just being done. I'm getting there, like I can do things like that for myself. Obviously I can plaster now and do all the rest of it, but it was another year of learning and another year of teaching myself how to do stuff. And I didn't want to bring somebody into that and be like, hey, welcome to the chaos of my life. I've just come out of a 14-year relationship. My ex broke off my engagement. I'm living on my own, and I'm also teaching myself how to plaster over Artex ceilings at the weekend. It just didn't scream stable to me. It screamed healing. And I'm very, very vocal about not relying on someone to heal and healing by myself. I'm also very vocal about the fact that if I met somebody that was in my position, if I met a guy who was in my position who had just come out of a big fat relationship and they didn't have a house, or they were renting with their friend, and you know, they didn't have any permanent address because they weren't sure where they wanted to live, they still had like, were in touch with their ex, I would not go near him with a barge pole. I'd be like, you need to sort your life out. Like, I understand why people don't buy houses and I understand why people rent, but I think there becomes like an age where you should kind of be able to pinpoint where you want to live and if you want to like have your own space. And that's just me. And I thought, I can't have double standards here. I can't think, oh my God, I really want my next boyfriend to have their own house, have a really stable job, not have like a connection with their ex at all. So like, I knew that I didn't want to date somebody with children who still had an ex. And I was saying all these things to myself, and I was thinking, I'm still, you know, working for my ex. I'm still trying to get my shit together with my house. I don't know how much things cost. I don't know how I'm going to run my car. I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage next month. I don't know how I'm going to go on holiday and pay my mortgage in 1 month. You know, those are the conversations I was having with myself. So I didn't want to bring somebody in because I was like, I want to get this straight in my head. And like I said, the mindset shift of like, just because my environment was new and I'd got a new house didn't mean that like all the emotions of my breakup had gone away. If anything, they were louder than ever because I could really feel in my financial situation and in my emotional situation that I was by myself. And so I wasn't going to bring somebody in 2023. And I remember getting to the end of 2023 and being like, something's going to change in 2024. Something is going to change in 2024. It is going to be a big year. And it was a big year. I lost my fucking job. So we go into year 3 where I lost my job. The plot twist that was a plot twist, but wasn't a plot twist. I got wind of my ex wanting to dissolve the business and go by himself. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about, his business partner didn't know about, and I don't know why we were surprised. But, you know, two sides to every story. Did he need to spread his wings? Probably yes. He's very determined. He's one of those people that has always been very career driven, very hardworking. Do I think it was the right move for him? Yes. Do I think he went around it in the right way? No. But it resulted in me losing my job, and I lost my job in June. I got paid redundancy money that paid me out. I'd only worked for the business since 2021, so my redundancy money was kind of like just 2 months worth. And so I was able to pay my bills, go on, you know, with looking for a job and stuff. And it came with a lot of heartache. I put a lot of time into my ex's business, and I sent a really nice email to both of them and didn't get anything in reply. So that was hard. And I felt like I was just stabilizing. And I felt like, okay, I've got my own house, 2024. I'm all good. I'm great. And then all of a sudden, I lost my job and the stability was gone again. But it was 10 times louder, because not only did the stability go when I lost my relationship, because I was living in a house I couldn't pay for. My ex was there and did me a solid on, you know, saying that I could live there and he would continue to pay. I would always be grateful for that. But I lost my job and I had a house to pay for. And it was not ideal. And I think if you listen back to my podcasts, I don't really talk about it. And I don't talk about just how on the breadline this time last year I actually was. I don't think my family realised how on the breadline I actually was. And the job market was horrendous. And I could take you back to screenshots and emails. I applied for everything. And I mean, when I say I applied for everything, there was not one part of me that was going to apply for a job that didn't cover my mortgage payments. There was no point of me going to a job that I would then be slaving away for 8 hours a day. Then I knew that wouldn't cover the cost of my bills. I had my savings to do that. I took the decision to dip into my savings to keep me afloat. And your mum and dad bang on about having a rainy day fund, and thank God I did. But every single penny counted. Going Christmas shopping last year nearly crippled me. I thought, Jesus Christ, how on earth am I going to afford any of this? How am I going to afford Christmas? My bills had gone up because of the increase in the energy bills. My phone bill had gone up. Everything, absolutely everything that I owned had gone up. And the only thing that was stable was my mortgage. My mortgage hadn't gone up. Thank God, I'd locked in for 5 years. And here's the truth. The last thing on earth that I needed to be doing last year was finding love and prioritizing love and bringing somebody into my life that I had to sit there and say, what do you do for a living? And then being like, oh, okay, they've got a good job. And then turning around and being like, what do you do for a living? And me being like, I'm unemployed. And you could argue that, yes, I had this, and yes, I should be really proud of this. And I am really proud of this. But that is why 2025 has been a year where I have thrown my heart, life, soul, everything I have in existence into this. Because that year, my nervous system pretty much went back into survival mode, but for different reasons. I'm sure there are people probably listening to this who can relate when they are in financial hardship, that you don't sleep and you're constantly thinking like, what can I do? You're applying for jobs over and over and over and over, rejection. And everyone was saying, like, I've mentioned, obviously, my two best friends are in recruitment. They're directors of a recruitment company. She was like, jobs are so thin on the ground. My brother-in-law is very high up in a big corporation in London, and he said he cannot believe the amount of people that are applying for these jobs that his team are putting out and how many people get rejected in an instant. And they would like catch people off guard, like fill this application in black pen, and people that filled them in blue pen disregarded. It was wild, like actually wild. They were finding every single reason to bat people out of the job pool. It was so rough. I spoke to so many people on my Instagram, so many people on my Patreon when I had opened up about not having a job, how many other people were really struggling. One of my other friends, she was really struggling at the time as well. She'd quit a job because she hated it and then didn't realise how bad the job market actually was. And my priority was rebuilding my career and stabilising what I had. People don't talk about this, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to be deemed as quite controversial, but if you're drowning in something else, like I was drowning in my finances, if you are drowning in something else, a relationship is not a lifeboat. It's extra weight that's going to make you drown. I did not have the mental capacity to even think about bringing somebody into my life. There was no way on this earth that I again was going to have double standards. I was going to sit in front of somebody on a date and be like, what do you do for a living? Thinking, is that a good job? Do I deem myself that a good job? Is that a job that I'd want my future partner to have? When I would be sat there, be jobless, counting out my pounds, selling furniture on Facebook Marketplace, emptying my wardrobes of clothes to put on Vinted. I was literally doing everything I had to get extra cash into the house. I physically couldn't think about anything else. And I all of a sudden became this person that, again, I was like, oh my God, I've gone back into this person that I did recognise from building strength in my personal relationship side of my life. But then all of a sudden I was catapulted into this person where I was like, well, who am I now? Like, am I business coordinator for a plumbing firm? Am I like going back into law? Like, who am I? And year 3 taught me one of the biggest lessons that I will ever learn. And that is, do not build a relationship from a place of instability. I could have very much been like, this year's awful. I just need somebody to distract me. I just need something to take my mind off of this. I just need to, get back out on the dating scene because, if I find a man and blah, 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 blah. No, do not build a relationship on instability at all. You cannot choose somebody when you don't know what version of yourself you are choosing them from. And I know that now because my life is so stable. Yes, I've got 1,000 other things I want to achieve, but my life is so stable. I know that I will be choosing somebody from a place of stability. So like, if they sound to me like they're a little bit, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, I would be put off by that because I'd be like, do you know what? I've got my life pretty much nailed now. So I don't want to judge somebody. And people say that you judge, but of course you do. You're going to go on a date and you're going to think like, I don't really like that, or they've got that. Or it's not being judgy in a horrible way. It's just knowing the version of yourself that is choosing. And are you choosing from a place of instability? Are you choosing from a place of like, I'm not really sure what's around the corner. I don't know when my house is going to sell. I don't know what job I'm going to be in the next 3 months, or I'm unemployed or whatever. Are you choosing from that? Why are you choosing from that? Are you distracting yourself? Has life got on top of you this year? So like year 3 for me was when I really booked up my ideas of like making sure my life was stable before I invited somebody in. And I was a woman on a mission, and I was like, if I'm going to invite somebody into my life next year, I have to be stable, and I have to have got a job that I'm proud of, and I have to do all these things that make me feel stable. All the things that make you feel stable might be different to all the things that make me feel stable, but I had to know that I would be choosing somebody from a place of stability, not a place of, oh my God, my life has gone tits up, I just need to distract myself by get validation from somebody else and getting the attention of somebody else and being able to say like, oh, I'm doing this weekend, not I'm applying for 150 jobs this weekend. I didn't want to distract myself. And I think that that's why people, I think, were quite shocked in 2025, this year, my year 4 of being single, where people were like, surely you are going to find somebody this year. And I went, plot twist, no, I'm going to spend my entire year building my social media with zero distraction. And that has been year 4, because I've found a focus and I have decided that I want to walk into a new relationship with something so incredibly solid underneath my feet that I am so proud of talking about it. And like, because like when I first started my podcast, it was like a silly little podcast that people were like, why is she talking about her breakup? I want to go into a relationship and be like, yeah, I do this, but it's built me this, and this. And from off the back of that, I've got this, and this. This is how stable my life is. This is my life. And I want somebody to come in and be like, aha, that's incredible. I fit in here. And me be like, I just need somebody to do fun things with and like do life with. Not, I need somebody to contribute to my life because I need to be financially dependent on somebody again. Or, you know, if you were to walk away, I'm left with nothing again. I built this because I pretty much had everything taken away from me because I was so reliant on my ex. And when people say to me, like, you can build something together, I remember my mum saying, you know, you can do like something with somebody else, and you know, you can build a business with somebody else. Why would I want to? Because I did that, and no, I didn't fit pipe work. I wasn't on the jobs. I wasn't quoting work. I wasn't doing all of that. But I was the glue that held the business together behind the scenes. And I felt like I put a lot of time and compromised a lot of time for my ex's business. And was all of a sudden it was like, it's all gone now. So's your house and your job. And anything stable that you thought was stable and you thought that you'd never have to worry about, no, that's all gone now. It's just you and that's it. And you need to go and set up by yourself. And I have been challenged before about whether I walked away with nothing because I walked away with money to be able to buy a house. When I say I lost everything, I mean I lost everything stable that I had in my life. I lost everything in my eyes, and I will not be told any different. I did lose everything in my eyes. So when people say to me like, oh yeah, you know, you never know, you might just be building a business someone in the future. And I think, yeah, I might be, but I have my own business too. And I have my own thing too, because there is just a part of you when you go from having everything to nothing that never wants to be in that position ever again. And it's kind of like how protective I feel over my house. I don't think I'll ever sell my house. And I see myself living with somebody. Of course I do. But I don't see myself living with somebody in this house. No way. There's not enough space, to be fair. But this is my house. And eventually, yes, I do want to own a house with somebody, but this is my house and it's going to be my business. And I think the biggest mindset shift that I've had this year is like, even though mentally I have felt like, yeah, do you know what? I think I'm ready to like date. I still deserve to build a foundation that supports the woman that I want to become. Because the woman that I want to become is somebody obviously that has their own business and has their own things the woman that I want to become is a career-driven woman. I want to be a successful businesswoman. And I can be all of those things and have a relationship. If I do the relationship first, then that side of things slows down, and I'm just not ready to do that. I'm not ready to slow that side of my life down. I don't want to slow that side of my life down. I want to excel that side of my life where I have the opportunity, and then I want to meet somebody. And I think people would argue like, oh, you can't control who you're going to meet and when. No, you can't. But you can definitely have a sort of plan. And I have definitely signaled to the universe on multiple occasions this year that the next person I meet is going to be my husband, which is why I haven't bumped into them, because my husband is not ready to meet me yet, because my life doesn't feel like it is completely stable yet. I've got so much more expanding to do. And that is what year 5 is going to be about. It's going to be about expanding, because this year I have grafted and worked my arse off to build a foundation that then in year 5 of being single, who knows, I might find somebody, but I cannot tell you how quickly these 4 years have gone, because I spent the first 2 years in fight or flight. The third year, the plot twist that I did see come in, but didn't see coming I thought I was going to be able to jump from one job to another. I never thought I would be made redundant. And then year 4 this year has been a year where I have really knuckled down and really put myself first and sat with being so uncomfortably alone, to now ending year 4 being so proud of what I've actually achieved. And there's so many things on this pinboard that I'm going to take off this year, which is so crazy to me. And I think like being in therapy has made me realise that I want to build a relationship on emotional clarity, not emotional residue. The reason why I've waited for so long is because I want to go into a new relationship as like a fresh version of myself, where my ex doesn't really even come into conversation. And I will always worry about saying to somebody, yeah, I've been in a relationship for 14 years of my life and I've been engaged before. Like, I know that is quite daunting for a guy to hear, but I also want them to know that I've spent, 4, 5, 6 years actually coming to terms with the trauma that I went through, and that I'm not having to justify my reactions to anybody. I'm not having to over-explain my trauma. I want to be able to say to somebody, this is what I've been through. This is what I went through. This is how it's impacted me. And sometimes these things make me feel like that, and those things make me feel like that. I don't want to love somebody whilst still healing from my previous relationship. I do not believe that somebody can heal from a past relationship in a short time. I just don't. And I think there are always going to be times where you think, oh my God, do you think that affects your ex? And I remember reading this thing, and it was this girl, and she was like, it haunts them. I don't want to be haunted by my past ever. I want to be able to walk past my ex in the street and my new partner not have to think, are they thinking about them because they've seen them? I want them to be absolutely sure that she stayed single for long enough. They didn't go back to each other. He's never come back. She's never come back. I'd hate to be somebody who had so many unresolved things with their ex. And what I mean by that is not like, unresolved arguments, unresolved conversations. But I'd hate it if I was with somebody that was like, I left them and they never went back and spoke to their family. That's unresolved. I left and I said that it was because of this, but actually the reason why I left. I would hate to lay in bed at night and think, are they still thinking about their ex? Or if like they'd seen their ex in the day, I'd hate to lay in bed and think, I wonder if they're thinking about them. And so I'm not going to do that to somebody else. And you can't erase your ex from your life. You're never going to be able to erase them. There's always going to be a part of them that's going to be a part of your past. But I never, ever, 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 and I repeat, ever, want to be in a relationship where I am over explaining my emotions, apologizing for being emotional, and asking for the bare minimum. And I have had to work out what that means. What emotions am I apologizing for? Why am I apologizing for them? What the bare minimum is to me. Everyone's bare minimum is different, but like what that means. I never want to be in a relationship ever again where I'm like, am I going to get a birthday card this year? I never, ever, ever want to be in a relationship like that. I've had to get to grips with what I want in a relationship, what I don't want in a relationship. I do not want to be validated by intimacy or attention. I don't want any of those things. And I want to walk into my next relationship as a woman who's grounded, clear, emotionally stable, secure in myself. I want it to be all these things, like self-protective but open, and healed enough to like not have something bring me all the way crashing back down. Like if I was to walk into Tesco, I'd be able to see my ex's parents or like my ex's sister and be like, hey, you okay? And not walk out that shop thinking, oh my God, like I remember when I was really bad to those people. I don't want any of those things. And it takes building confidence from the inside out. And the final mindset shift that I had in year 4 has been that like, I am choosing to heal before I'm choosing to love. So then I know that love is super easy when it happens. And I know that it's going to be so aligned. And it's just going to feel right. Everything is going to feel right. Nothing is going to feel uncertain. Oh my God, like, where are we going to live? Would that work? Does long distance work? Does this work? Does that work? I'm not coming at my relationship like that. I'm coming at my new relationship so aligned. And it's going to be so healthy and so real. And so if you've listened to this and you've thought, how on earth has this girl stayed single for 4 years? And I really wanted to know. I hope that has given you some form of like clarity on your own journey. Because yes, 4 years sounds like a long time. But when I actually break it down and talk about it, I have done so much healing. Like 4 years single has been a journey that I never ever planned. But it has shaped me in so many ways that I 100% needed. It shaped me into a woman that I am so immensely proud of, and that I know one day you will also feel the same. And you'll probably look back and be like, oh my God, I was dreading being single for 6 months, because I was dreading the first Christmas. And now, like going into number 4 Christmas by myself, I'm like, yes, let's get it. I'm so excited for the end of the year. I'm so excited to get 2026 started. I've got so many plans. And this is what I mean. It's like, I never thought I'd be a woman that would say that. I never thought I'd be like, right, let's kickstart the year. Let's do this, let's do that. And that's the energy that I'm going to bring for the next year. So you can follow that too. And I hope that if you are on this journey too, I hope you feel more confident and more empowered to not have to over explain yourself as to why you're single after 3 or 4 years after being out of a relationship. I hope that if you're listening to this and you've only just gone through a breakup, you're listening to this thinking, do you know what? I can take my time. I'm allowed to take my time. I'm taking my time because I need to choose from stability and not instability. I hope that these things have resonated with you and that you feel a little bit more like, do you know what? Single shouldn't be scary. Single should be exciting. And I mean that when the grief and the sadness has stopped. I don't mean that straight away. But it should be exciting. You should be able to look at your life and think, what can I achieve? Where can I go? It should be those things that you are asking yourself. Hopefully this has helped. If you do want more episodes like this, I have my Patreon, which you can get 2 extra episodes a week on. The link is in my bio. You can sign up and get access to hundreds of more episodes. I also have my single winter series that's going on over there. It's very exciting. I'm going to record another episode for that this week, which I'm very excited about. I also have my no contact guide. Guys, please don't forget about that. It might see you through Christmas. So that is also available following the link in my bio. If none of that interests you and you are just here for the hour-long chats, I will see you back here next Friday. Look after yourself, guys. Bye.